Madam Chair, we're ready to begin.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. At this time, Lisa Young will take a roll call to see if a quorum is present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, when I call your name, please respond. J.B. Shaw.
Here.
Thank you. Mike Denby. Simon Lara.
Here.
Thank you. Robert Von Dunacher.
Here.
Thank you. Nick Russo. Nick Russo. Ron Gritman. Paul Montes.
Here.
Thank you. Amy Moreno. Adam Kurtz.
Here.
Robert Stratman.
Here.
Thank you. Sherry Collins. Aaron Red. Felipe Moreno. Jack McCallis.
Here.
Thank you. Ramona Simpson.
Here.
Thank you. Richard Allen. Wendy Kreitz. Wayman Allen. Robert Parks. Stephen White. Did I miss anyone?
This is Mike Carr filling in for Amy Moreno with City of Glendale.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Nick Russo with the City of El Mirage. I had an audio problem, but I am here. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, a quorum is now present. The meeting of the MAG Solid Waste Advisory Committee is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items on today's agenda or on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you'd like to comment in today's meeting, fill out a white request to speak card located on the information table in the hallway and give it to MAG staff. If you parked in the garage, parking validators are available on the information table in the hallway. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. And our next item is a call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience agenda item unless the committee requests an exception to this limit. I have not received any request to speaker cards for this agenda item unless staff has let me know otherwise.
Max Neff, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, we have not received any written comments. Thank you.
Okay. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website, one item prior to the meeting. Staff, do we have any written comments for this item?
Madam Chair, we do not have any written comments.
Okay, thank you so much. Our next agenda item is the approval of the March 7th, 2023 meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Okay. Prior to the approval, do we have any members of the public who wish to comment on the agenda item number 3? Since we haven't received any request to speaker cards for the agenda, I'm assuming we don't have any other comments on this. Staff, do we have any written comments?
Madam Chair, we do not have any written comments.
Okay, so let's move forward. Is there a motion to approve the March 7th, 2023 meeting minutes?
This is Ramona, Town of Queen Creek. I move to approve the March 7th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Thank you, Ramona. And do we have a second, please?
This is JB Shaw with ADQ, and I second that.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Ramona Simpson of Queen Creek and a second from JB Shaw of ADEQ. Can I have a voice vote for those in the room or on Zoom? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed say nay. Those wish to abstain, vote abstain. Okay, a roll call of the members, I guess, I'm sorry about that. I guess we need to do a roll call of members participating virtually. Lisa, can you go ahead with that, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, when I call your name, please state your vote. Mike Denby. Simon Lara.
Yes.
Thank you. Robert, excuse me, Robert Vandenacker.
Aye.
Thank you. Nick Russo.
Aye.
Thank you. Ron Gritman. Paul Montes.
Aye.
Thank you. Amy Moreno. Adam Kurtz.
Aye.
Thank you. Robert Stratman.
Aye.
Thank you. Sherry Collins. Aaron Red. Felipe Moreno.
Aye.
Thank you. Jackman Callis.
Aye.
Thank you. Richard Allen. Wendy Kreitz. Wayman Allen. Robert Parks. Stephen White. Did I miss anyone? Madam Chair, we have a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Next, we have our first presentation from the city of Phoenix regarding the plastics microfactory project.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Amanda Jordan. I am the Circular Economy Project Manager with the City of Phoenix. I will be presenting today in collaboration with my colleagues from ASU's Rob and Melanie Walton Sustainability Solutions Service, which is Alicia Marseille, Senior Director, and Raj Butch, the Director of Business Development and Circular Economy Lead. Next slide, please. So before diving into this specific project, I just wanted to give some background on Phoenix's goals around zero waste and circularity. So as of today, Phoenix is hovering at a 36% waste diversion from landfill rate, and we are pressing forward on our goals to achieve 50% diversion by 2030 and zero waste by 2050. And one of the many pathways that we aim to do so is through embracing a transition to circular economy. Next slide. So Phoenix has been embarking on a circular transition for over a decade now, and much of this work is linked to our collaboration with ASU and its various organizations. Our work in this space actually commenced after commissioning 2 key studies with Arizona State University around GHG emissions and waste characterization, where we were able to identify public works trucks transporting waste to and from landfill as one of the higher GHG emitters in the valley, and that most of the waste we were sending to landfill was actually valuable materials that could be reused in secondary markets. From this, 2 big programs spun out. that were in collaboration with the Walton team. And that was the Resource Innovation and Solution Network, RISN, and RISN Incubator, which was the Business Incubation Acceleration Program to support entrepreneurial ecosystem development around circular economy solutions. And from that work, we were able to have a lot of impacts in our region and have continued to push forward on innovative pathways to achieve circularity, which includes our latest project with the team, which is our plastics microfactory project. And so at this point, I will pass it over to my colleagues at ASU, who will talk you through their division of ASU, the work that they're leading, and this project specifically. Next slide, please.
Sorry again.
Oh, we were muted. What a rookie move. Thank you, Amanda, for that. This is our premier project that we did with the City of Phoenix that kicked off in 2013, the Resource Innovation and Solutions Network. As you can see, it included a multitude of various types of projects, 25 applied research projects that included both research, technical solutions. Part of that also included an economic impact assessment to really understand what is the potential economic impact of circularity in the region. You can see it's at 1.9 billion in terms of gross state product. Did a lot of work convening stakeholders, not just with City of Phoenix, but also local policymakers, Maricopa County, as well as 20 other municipalities and Public Works Department. And you can see the impact from the RISN Incubator there on the left underneath the photo of the RIC. Next slide, please. Our team really takes an innovative approach to developing solutions. This is kind of a visual representation of our approach. We've developed a framework. Starting in the left-hand corner, we really identify and look at problems, start to think about and doing the research and thinking about designing potential pilots. How do we start to think about what could potentially work while simultaneously building all of the relationships and with the different types of public and private and community organizations that need to be at the table to give feedback on the pilots, implementing the pilot, understanding what works and what did not work from those pilots, and then how do we start to scale those solutions. And so the microfactory is a good example of that we'll walk through. Next slide, please. Here's an overview of our impacts over the last decade. As you can see, as a department, a large portion of our projects are focused on circular economy, 80 out of our over 120. Next slide, please. As a result of that framework, we've started to really think about various types of pilots, looking at both organic and inorganic production. And we've developed what we're calling the Community Eco-Economic Development, or SEED framework, and really thinking about circularity from a standpoint of how do we use resources at their highest and best use when possible, while simultaneously using it as an economic development driver to improve livelihoods, well-being, equity, and inclusion. How do we, again, coordinate all the right partners to solve complex sustainability issues? And how do we start to redefine urban and rural development and resources, and thinking about regional capacity building and taking and pulling from some of those Ellen MacArthur Foundation definitions of circularity in terms of regeneration of nature, the organic cycle, utilizing micro-manufacturing to produce take those resources and produce new products regionally, and how do we ultimately build local healthy communities? Next slide, please.
Thanks, Alicia. So this is Raj Butch, also at ASU. I'm going to present a few slides on the broader statewide type of work that we're doing here at ASU in the waste management and recycling industry. And then Alicia will dive into the details of the microfactory project that was funded by the City of Phoenix. So on this slide, what you're seeing is the USDA funded hub and spoke recycling feasibility study that ASU conducted in partnership with the New Mexico Recycling Coalition, the town of Pine Top Lakeside, and JB from ADEQ was also a partner in this project. It ended in 2022, and you can see what we did. The idea here was how do we build centralized, cooperative, replicable, and scalable hub and spoke systems. The diagram on the bottom kind of gives you an idea. If you get to stage 3 or bullet 3 there, you have a statewide regional networks of hubs and spokes that work together to aggregate materials and get them to markets. The project resulted in a customizable logistical flow and financial model for the Pinetop Lakeside area. We designed a hub and spoke with 6 viable scenarios. Also, as part of the project, we trained more than 200 rural stakeholders with the help of ADEQ and their liaisons around the state. We had training sessions where we brought this concept of hub and spoke recycling, and we tried to get that socialized out in rural communities. The next step on this project is we submitted a follow-on bid to USDA to do statewide scaling of a hub and spoke type feasibility study. So we're still waiting for the outcome of that submission. Next slide, please. And then this slide here represents a $1.6 million project that was funded by the Arizona Board of Regents. They gave ASU, they gave Walt and our team the money to work with NAU to do these six activities. It starts with trying to estimate the waste flow from every county and every community for the entire state. The reason for the Arizona county map and the national map is Florida and Georgia and California, Illinois, and the EPA have done this kind of work. They've created their own versions of models. So we're trying to take other people's work and adapt it to Arizona in task 1. And then task 2, there's a parallel economic impact study going on that would try to demonstrate the economic impact of recycling today in all the counties of Arizona and around the state. We're also creating a cost-benefit analysis model for community and hub and spoke type scenarios. Task 4, which we'll do later this year, we'll kick off later this year, is building a network for economic attraction and business development in the state for circular economy and enterprises or entities. And then we're going to try and pilot test a hub and spoke system that's also in the project. And finally, we're going to try and do a material flow analysis at the county scale. I think we have a slide on that in the next slide. So if we can jump to the next slide, please. So what we're trying to do here is essentially, can we understand how much material flow there is? When you talk to economic impact folks, they look at economic flow. How many dollars flow into an urban area or into a country or into a region, and how much economic outflow there is. And so that's the net economic impact that they assess for a region. What we're trying to do here in Walton is convert that dollar flow calculation into a tonnage flow. So if we know how many goods and products are imported into, say, Maricopa County, and then they're used by different sectors of the economy, residential or commercial or industrial, and then we generate waste, and how much of that waste then goes to different streams to the right of this Sankey diagram. We're also trying to do this research. So that's also going to be part of that ABOR funded grant. Next slide, please. And then as we developed all of this work, we realized that decentralization and distributed networks was probably a good way to come up with a better way to divert resources from landfill. We built our own research lab, if you will. Circular Living Lab is what we call it. We built it at ASU. The idea here was to take ASU waste and create products from it within ASU and demonstrate that a decentralized, distributed, small scale, low cost, low tech, if you will, for plastics only, would be a better way to keep jobs, create jobs, and develop the economy locally. So we built this Circular Living Lab at ASU, where we have manufacturing and materials engineering students and supply chain students. All these folks are getting to learn from these machines and learn how that system might work in a self-contained campus, if you will, an ecosystem that already generates waste. Can we make products out of it? Next slide, please. And so one of the first things we did is ASU's relationship with Starbucks, our partnership with Starbucks. Under that partnership, they asked us to make 10 bins. You can see the bullets on the left side, but the bin on the right there is what the students made. Essentially, we molded a bunch of lumber, 8-foot lumber cut into pieces, and created these recycling containers, 10 of them to be put around campus for recovering Starbucks cups. And obviously the idea being that the bins are made out of Starbucks waste, and now we're using that waste to create a recovery system. Next slide, please.
And so piggybacking off what Raj said, a lot of the research, applied research that we've been doing across the state and with the city of Phoenix over the years has informed the development of the circular plastics microfactory. It's helped us understand material flow, who are the stakeholders, how much material, contamination rates, how do you aggregate it? How do you start to really think about redefining the actual system? And that's what the lab on campus also allowed us to do. So we worked with zero waste, we worked with facilities, we worked with 5 colleges, and ASU is about 1,500 acres, 500 buildings, and about 100,000 people. So it's a microcosm of a small city. So how do we redesign that system to collect all the materials, process the materials, design new products out of the waste that could be used, increasing and kind of upcycling, if you will, moving from single use to long-term products. And so as a result, we are now going into launching the first of its kind circular plastics microfactory at scale in the world with City of Phoenix. You can see that the small processing number there on the left is the actual microfactory on campus, but we're moving into medium and large processing with the one in Phoenix. So we're producing at a much higher volume. And we're doing the collections, but we're also shredding, pelletizing, extruding, making new products on site. And again, the goal is a regional networked model. So instead of having a centralized, how do we have several of these around a region and reducing the amount of need for logistics and shipping, and also creating local jobs in those regions as well. Next slide, please. The microfactory project partners, so City of Phoenix, we're also working with Goodwill of Central and Northern Arizona. They are not only a feedstock provider, but they're also supporting some of the end market development in terms of products to be made and distributed. We're also working with Hustle Phoenix, which is a Black owned and operated community economic development organization to support some of the entrepreneurship and small business. And the cooperative building, we're looking at cooperative-based business models and thinking about community wealth generation and moving away from some of the challenges that entrepreneurs from underserved communities or underserved community individuals in general in terms of workforce might face. And then it's our team here at Walton as well. Next slide, please. These are examples of the different types of products we can make that we've been making at our Circular Living Lab on ASU's campus. You can see there's various types of desks, chairs, bookshelves, if you will. The stool in the upper right-hand corner is flat pack furniture, which you see at places like IKEA, no screws needed. It's just literally the pieces fit together, if you will. Next slide, please. Make various types of tiles, bricks. Next slide, please. Lots of sporting equipment. We have a partnership with SWAPOW. They work with over 500 youth aging out of the foster youth system and use skateboarding as a means to develop professional soft skills as well as entrepreneurship. So we've been making a lot of skateboards, which you can imagine are wildly popular on campus as well. Next slide, please. And you can make various types of home goods and consumer good products as well. Next slide, please. That is it. I don't know if we have time for questions. If anyone has questions or comments, thoughts.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
this is Ramona Simpson from the town of Queen Creek. I got a question.
Yes.
So, you said you're getting feedstock from City of Phoenix. What types of plastics are you taking in for this venture? Like
Yeah,
water bottles? Is it like hard plastics?
that's a great question. We're looking at 2s and 5s predominantly. We can process PET, but one of the benefits that we have of the lab on campus is we're able to do a lot of testing in terms of melt flows, strength testing of the products that we make. PET is a great material, but it is not ideal. It's very heavy actually when we process it. One of the machines that we do have is a pelletizer, and so we will be able to pelletize PET. But we will not be making end products. So we will be pelletizing 1s, 2s, and 5s, but products will be made from 2s and 5s predominantly.
You can mix polyethylene and polypropylene, so 2 and 5 can be mixed, but PET you don't want to mix with these other materials. So we can process PET, but right now we're not doing that. But it would have to be processed separately.
That's a great question. And we do have future plans for taking soft plastics and pelletizing those also for use.
Yeah.
This is Chairperson Tracy Conaway from City of Chandler. What quantity are you taking from City of Chandler or City of Phoenix, or at least the percentage that you're taking from them? And then what's your plans to scale, or if there are plans to scale larger?
Great question, Tracy. So one microfactory at the medium size can process roughly 1,500 tons a year. And so we are absolutely planning to scale
500.
beyond the 1.
500.
There's no shortage of material, that's for sure.
Yep. And our first sourcing of that material is going to actually be from Goodwill, from the Goodwill waste stream.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much for your presentation. Is there any final questions? Right. Well, thank you, Raj and Alicia and Amanda, for that great presentation. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presentation will be from Ramona Simpson of Town and Queen Creek.
Hi, thank you. This is Ramona Simpson, Operations Manager over Environmental and Fleet and Public Works at the town of Queen Creek. And I appreciate that presentation from ASU and Risen, and appreciate that work, which is like on a global state level. And I'm going to bring you down to what would be like a little pilot program. We have about 24,000 single family residential services in the town of Queen Creek that we provide services to through our third party contract with Waste Connections, who does the collection and disposal. Town of Queen Creek, we do all of the billing, customer service, inspection, outreach, and we procure the carts. Like, we do a million things, but how we're doing a lot of what we're doing is through some partnerships with Waste Connections and others that I'll be talking about. So in April of this year, we took to council a similar presentation that I'm going to present here, and then got approval for doing some technology that we've already put in place and some others that are coming soon. And we just wanted to talk to this group about some of what we're doing for waste diversion and also reducing contamination in our recycling, curbside, and drop off. So this gives a little bit of context to how much trash is collected. It includes both trash and recycling. So initially both carts or multiple carts, and how much we're doing per household per week. It's a little lower than, for example, Waste Connections, what they're doing. And we believe that the reason why we have less at the curb is because we have many other diversion programs for residents to be able to utilize. And that helps our diversion from the landfill in other ways. And we'll talk about some of those. So here's a breakdown from our most recent audit that we did. This is how we do our audits, is we choose an area that we know may be struggling with recycling properly. And we do an audit before. So we get a trash truckload or a recycling truckload in this instance. And I believe this was about 500 parts worth. And we take that to Waste Connections. They run only our material during that time, and they get a breakdown of what all of our material is. So this is the second one. So we do that first one, and then for the next 6 weeks, we blanket that area. We send our inspectors out. We do a lot of outreach. We outreached with the HOA on Nextdoor, on our social media. And what we're really trying to do is re-inform residents about how to properly recycle, how to not wish recycle, right? Put the correct materials in the correct bin. What are their other options, such as our hazardous waste IGA with the town of Gilbert, where they can take their material for free. We have a self-haul, which is a reduced rate at the MRF, Waste Connections. We have bulk, which reduces contamination and recycling, because if it's something that could contaminate or overfill the cart, they can do bulk requests once a month. And we also do 4 recycling drop-off events annually, as well as if it's for big materials that don't fit in your curbside cart, we do have a recycling drop-off facility. So we have many options that we try to present during our inspection period. And so the initial, you can see how trash is 13%, meaning that those were materials that should not have been put into the recycling, or they were not materials that we recycle in this program, or they were just trash. Some of it was at the beginning, this pie was about half. So about 43% the first time that we did the audit. And then we were able to reduce that to 13% the second time. We continue to work towards at least 6%, which is what we had pre-COVID. So we're working towards educating residents since there was a time period where, we had to collect recycling as trash, and then everyone thought, well, everything is always trash. Well, it's not. So we had to we've been having to re-educate since COVID about the importance of recycling and properly recycling. But about a 38% reduction in contamination is pretty good for only a 6-week program. So we continue to educate, and they continue to educate each other. So we followed some of those conversations on Nextdoor, and they were like, well, why are they doing this? And I didn't know they came and looked at our carts. And this was a newer area that had just been annexed into the town, so they weren't used to town inspectors. So it was interesting watching the conversation, and some of those who had moved from a different community in Queen Creek to that one talked about, yes, we do get inspectors. They're there to just help us know what to recycle. Some went off the deep end a little bit, but Most of them were very positive about the program and had an understanding, and this shows by the breakdown. I also wanted to just show on this slide that paper and cardboard are by weight the most still prevalent in our breakdown, and glass by weight is pretty heavy. And I could say that's just because there's a lot that are making spaghetti, but could be other things. But still in our program, glass is still pretty prevalent in our curbside. So of course, speaking to the choir here, we all know that these challenges that we have had, the China ban that came several years ago, COVID-19, and what that meant for the types of materials that were now curbside. A lot of Amazon boxes coming out, more than we could handle during COVID sometimes. Batteries are a concern, as we know, and what that can do for hot loads and fires at MRFs. And another challenge, of course, is glass, right? That glass shatters during collection. Those shards can get into the material, both plastics, cardboard, and paper, which have a value, and as stated before, can be reused into other things. Glass in the curbside is not as valuable, and because it breaks down into tiny shards and gets with other materials, for us, it's mainly being used as landfill cover or a dust suppressant. So it is being reused. It does have a second life, but it doesn't have multiple lives that it could have if it was separated and not contaminated. So taking that under advisement, we propose to council some changes that I'll talk about in a moment. So first of all, I did want to talk about, we do have one recycling center drop off in our community. It is 23 8-yard front end load services, and that gets filled and collected every day, Monday through Friday, and actually twice on Friday. And we don't quite make it through a whole weekend. So either Saturday night or Sunday morning, sometimes that gets filled, we have to shut it down. So it is highly used. And here's a breakdown of the material that we take. Anything curbside, we can take at the recycle center the same. So you can see that cardboard and paper, about 65%. Glass is still 9% in the recycling center. So by weight, people are still putting glass in. But that small percentage, even in the recycling center collection, can still break when people are putting in the glass, or during the collection, or during the processing. So if cardboard and paper are one of our, well, cardboard at least is one of our highest commodities, we are not helping ourselves by having glass being accepted and then contaminating the cardboard. So some of the things that we have been putting in are these innovative solutions, and I'm going to review all of these. We have scanners that we are working with a system called Wasteware, and the scanners are actually to do cart maintenance and management. And then we developed a program with our new software for billing to also do mobile inspections. And so our inspector doing the cart inspections also is able to do all of that on mobile, and we'll talk about that. And then we have a Big Belly pilot, which I think some of you might know about Big Belly, but we're going to review that. And then our glass pilot that we're proposing and have just implemented, and that our new process for service requests using technology. So the first is the scanning technology. This little video. But you can see he just scanned that whole part with RFID chips, and we track each part at each house. And we also, this is how we do cart inventory, and where we would have to take apart all the carts and figure out their serial numbers, and it would take about a day and a half, we can now do in about 15 minutes using the scanner. So that scanner, when he just went up and down, that brought in all of those, 12, 13 carts that are in a stack. So we no longer have to unstack the carts to get a good count and to figure out what serial numbers we have. So the RFID chips have an RFID tag, and they also collect the serial number at the same time with that cart. So as you can see, we track the cart number, the serial number to the house, and during inspections, we can do the inspection at the cart at that house. And now with the new technology, the new software, to that customer. So no longer can they, we didn't want to start our administration process of doing fines, which we're not at, but maybe requiring them to get an additional cart or doing any of that. We've mainly been doing education. And the reason is because we knew where the cart was and we knew where the house was, but we didn't connect, it couldn't connect to the person. So now all of this software connects right to the person as well. So this is an example of what our mobile inspections looks like on the iPad. So they can stand in front of the house. It knows where they're at by GPS, click on the house. It brings them up and brings up their carts, whether it's 2 or 4, and they can do inspections of both the trash and the recycling. In the trash, we're looking for improper set out, like overfilled cart, a no bag and tie, and hazardous materials. In the recycling, we're looking for proper recycling. Again, overfilled cart and no bags, which is our biggest issue. And when they walk through the process of the inspection, which is just clicks on the screen, and they hit send, it will actually send, instead of putting the paper copy of the outreach material and the inspection on the cart, which defeats us being paperless, right? So now we are paperless, and it will actually send them an email to that homeowner, and they get the education material and the results of the inspection, and it's real time. So not only does the homeowner get that inspection result, the customer service gets that inspection result. So at the same time, so if the customer happened to not see their email and they came home and they weren't serviced, or they had a question on the email, they could call customer service, and customer service would be able to see that plus a picture. I forgot to say that. So they will take a picture. Pictures don't lie. When they say your cart was overfilled or had hazardous material in it, and this is why it didn't get collected, now they can see it. And so hard to disagree with that. So we're really about outreach at this beginning stage using this mobile technology. And we've been doing this for about 3 months. And so still working some bugs out. Some of our iPads are getting too hot because they're actually being used down the street in the heat. So we're working on some cooling technology for the iPads. There's some cooling containers that you can put the iPads in as you walk. So we're looking to that technology. But this is really helping us because we do track every inspection that happens. And then once we get that result, we can look at it as a week, as a year, as a month, and we can see where all of the issues are for both trash and recycling, and that helps us inform our outreach. So we can zoom into a subdivision and say, this is our biggest issue with plastic bags and the recycling. And then we can do targeted outreach to that subdivision regarding plastic bags. Or we've noticed some oil spills in this other neighborhood right after Thanksgiving because they're putting cooking oil in their carts. And so we're going to do some targeted outreach to this area, or we could do it down to the homeowner itself. So, and we can look over by year. So as long as we're collecting data, we can do something with it. And we're using it for targeted outreach based on what is actually happening at the curb, because we do get some sort of picture, as you saw from our audit, of an area, right? So we know this area and what happened when we put it through the MRF and we got that information. But having it down to the homeowner makes a big difference about what's happening in that site. And so our inspection right now, we're going to be getting a second inspector next fiscal year. So pretty soon, we're able to do about 300 homes a week with the inspection. And so we're getting to, our goal is each house twice annually. And then, you know, they go out there for other times when there's a spill or a customer says my cart is missed, or, you know, they need to go out to other areas. But for the most part, we believe that this will help us, because right now what they're doing is this physical paper and this carbon copy. And so they bring the other carbon copy back to the office, and now they're going to have to enter that information into the billing system so that we have some kind of tracking. But what happens is the information maybe isn't put into the next day, but the customer service is getting a complaint from the customer right that minute. So those two things were never happening at the same time. So now with mobile inspections, it's real time and it's all happening out in the field and directly with customer service. So, and with pictures. Our next technology that we're working on is big belly containers. And this is an example, I think this is in San Diego or somewhere, of on a street corner, how recycling would look on the left, and then how it could look on the right with big bellies. They do have a compactor, and it also uses technology to inform the groundskeepers when it is full, or if there's an issue, if it's not working properly, if the door isn't opening. So you can see, I'm not sure if you can see at the bottom there's a place you could use it, open it with your foot, or you can open it with a handle. So it's also really a safer, you know, with COVID and other things. So we're excited about this because you can also see how you can do public outreach and education right on the cart as well. So this is an example of some of the software and how it looks to the groundskeepers and those that are maintaining the trash and the recycling. We will get both a trash and recycling because we believe always, as the Recycling Coalition put out information several years ago, put those two things together. People have about 15 seconds to make a decision about what to do with the product in their hand. And so they need to be able to have clear pictures about what to do. And so we're developing outreach. It's going to be similar to what we have at our recycling center. I have some pictures of that. And so it will be clear imaging so people know what is going in the recycling, what's going in the trash. The only difference here is on the recycling, where we're putting it at one of our parks. It's going to be a round whole container for only plastic bottles and cans, because out in a park, you're not really doing cardboard or paper. So we believe that will help us reduce our contamination even further. So this is where we're going to be doing our big belly. This is our one of our splash pads, and we're going to be putting 3 of these sets at our Founders Park, and it is a contained site, so there's a little fence around it. So, and it's only contained, it's only for those visiting the splash pad. So we hope to get a really good information from this to see how it works and what the activities are that happen there, and if this helps us reduce contamination, but also manage our trash better. And this will help us inform our grounds crews and Parks and Rec Department, who are a little bit leery of it. It is a more expensive containerized system, right? Because it is software and it does use technology. And but we believe that this will help them come on board with this technology. And we're hoping by next year that we can be able to put this out to other areas where it makes sense, our libraries, our campuses, and other areas within a park where this type of technology will help the groundskeepers manage trash and reduce contamination for recycling in our open spaces. So this is an example of our recycling center. You can see this is some of our 23 different containers. And I have to tell you that this is really typically how it looks. Maybe Monday mornings, not so much, but the contamination rate here, I'll show you that in a minute, is very, very low. And there is still people who drop off stuff, right? We still have the mattresses and sometimes the things that, well, they brought it, but the interesting thing is they don't put it in the cart, in the containers. And that is mainly due to the outreach that we wrapped all of the containers with. So prior to that, we were having a really difficult time with contamination, just like everybody else. And I said, why don't we wrap the containers? Let's make it look like it's a destination and not a dump. And so once we did that, see if I can, oh, I don't have that yet. I'll tell you when we get to that, what my contamination rate is after we did this. So prior, the contamination was really high, like 43% or something. And after it was really low. So one of the things that we're doing is this glass pilot program. We are working in collaboration with our partnership with Waste Connections, and they provided this container, and they will also do the hauling. We are also working with strategic, sorry, couldn't get the right S word out, Strategic Materials Inc. here in Phoenix, and they'll be taking the glass. And so we appreciate Waste Connections and Strategic Materials for their partnership. We actually have 2 of these containers so that we can, these roll-offs, so that we can drop one off and pick one up. And I decided we're going to wrap this one too. So this is what our wrap looks like. And it's working so far. We've only had it out for about a month, but very, very little contamination, maybe a plastic bag because people bring something with it. But other than that, this is going really well. We haven't done an audit to see if people are putting glass in the other bins, but so far as what we can see, they are only putting glass in these bins and putting other materials and everything else. So far, so good. The other technology that we have implemented is a resident-facing service request. We are working with Recollect, as some of you are also doing for bulk, but we're also working with them on our next phase, which is to do all service requests, whether it's a missed pickup, broken cart, missed bulk, additional cart, all of those types of requests. We hope to have that up and running by next year. So we're working with Recollect on their next phase. But at this point as well, residents start with our new software called CIS. We call it My Utilities, but you can see on the left, this is the customer portal and how it looks. And you can see they can click on that tile, trash and recycling. You will take them to our website and you can see there's the service requests there. If they choose bulk, and ultimately it will look like this for all of our service requests. If they choose bulk, it goes right through the Recollect site. And again, we're working in partnership on this with Waste Connections again, because once they choose their address, the system knows that they are a Town of Queen Creek resident serviced by Waste Connections. And when they click schedule, it actually goes right to Waste Connections into their software. So there's no longer a need for my customer service to track all that information and send it in a lovely little Excel spreadsheet and send it over to Waste Connections for them to also put it into their information, and a lot of duplicate effort and a lot of human error. And so we do, for a small community, again, only about 24,000 accounts. We do about 1,500 to 2,000, depending on the time of year, bulk requests a month. So that's a lot. And so we keep them at Waste Connections very busy. So this is how the backend technology works right now and how we hope it to work in the future. So starting with My Utilities, the resident forward facing, it's really, really easy for them. It will actually go through Recollect when we get all of our service technologies in. Again, we're also partnering with Wasteware, and Wasteware is a software that manages and understands our carts. So it's really a component of Toter, and Toter's our carts manufacturer. And so Wasteware knows the RFID and the serial number and where they live in the world, right? So if someone started at My Utilities and said, my cart is broken, it could go through Recollect to collect the data. Wasteware would kind of connect to Wasteware. So all that RFID and other information would come in. It would go to Routeware, which is Waste Connections software. Waste Connections would then go out and do the actual physical activity, replace the cart, replace the lid, do the missed pickup, whatever activity they do. When they resolve their work in Routeware, it will automatically come into our system, My Utilities, and update that work in My Utilities. Totally takes out a customer service rep altogether. Fingers crossed if it all works really well together. So right now, this system is working for bulk. Bulk does not need to know the cart. So that kind of cuts off the Wasteware right now, but it does all work right now together for the bulk. And so we're going to be expanding that technology to do all service requests. We have a couple that, like the winter visitors that want to stop service for a minute. That probably needs to go through a customer service rep until we can figure that out. But for the majority, 90% of our service requests, we hope that it will be customer facing. And that way the customer is doing because they are logging into their My Utilities. They have that security. They're on their account. It knows that they're on their account. And so they're able to process all of their own service requests on their own. So with all luck, by this time next year, we'll be able to do all of those technologies. I didn't have my, pie chart with what happened after I put on the stuff on the recycling carts, the containers. We wrapped them. So after we wrapped them and we did another audit, we were less than 1% contamination. And mainly that was just plastic bags. So by wrapping those carts, it really helped that become information right as they're trying to put materials in. And so that really helped with our partnership again with Waste Connections to think that this is a valid process that we can continue. I know a lot of communities recently have been getting out of the drop-off locations because of contamination. So the thing is that it is kind of self-contained. We do close it every night. Our park rangers close it at 10 every night. And so other than that, it's not manned. And we were able to still reduce the contamination to a really, really reasonable level. So that's all that I had. And if there was any questions, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ramona. I have a question for you. On your inspection software, is that done through Waste Connect, or is that another system?
That is another system. It's called Mobile, and it's connected with our billing software, which is CIS. They are partners with CIS, but Mobile, they're their own entity. So if you want more information about what they do and how they can possibly connect and integrate with other softwares, they're kind of an open, what they call an open API. So they can integrate with other softwares. I don't know who else they've integrated with, but they were able to do that with our software.
Great, thank you. All right, well, Ramona, if there's anyone has any other questions, if not, I know can always contact Ramona at Town of Queen Creek. Thanks, Ramona. Next up, we have information on the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Program from MAG. There's a grant opportunity, and Elias Toon is going to go over that program with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Elias Toon, and I'm an air quality project manager at the Maricopa Association of Governments. This is a presentation that was given to the Air Quality Technical Advisory Committee, and we thought it'd be an excellent opportunity to also share with the Solid Waste Advisory Committee as well, since it has cross-media potential. Next slide, please. So just as some background on this federal grant opportunity, the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 allocated a significant fund to the tune of $1 billion to the funding and replacement of heavy duty vehicles, specifically class 6 and 7 vehicles with zero emission vehicles, supporting zero emission vehicle infrastructure, and also for workforce development and training. EPA is designing the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle Program based around this funding opportunity, and they're currently kind of in the formative stages of that. This slide was basically for the Air Quality Technical Advisory Committee, those who may not be as familiar with these different vehicles, but I assume most of you are more familiar with them. Specifically for this group, the class 7 vehicles, such as the refuse vehicles, may be the most pertinent ones to potentially target with this grant opportunity. Next slide, please. So this, as I mentioned before, these funds will not only go to replacing vehicles, but can also be used for the vehicle infrastructure such as electrical charging. And it can also go to the train and develop workers to kind of build up the capacity for these vehicles as they continue to become more prevalent and more manufacturers churn out these types of trucks. And EPA plans to distribute these funds over a long time horizon, so all the way out through 2031. One of the key functions that would be critical for this group to acknowledge is that of that total $1 billion in funding, 400 million, so a little less than half, has been earmarked for communities that are in non-attainment areas for air quality criteria air pollutants under the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. And as it's a little hard to see on the map over here, but if you look at some of the air quality boundaries in the MAG region, basically all of the MAG member agencies are covered under one non-attainment area or the other for ozone or PM. And so this would allow MAG member agencies to kind of be targeted in that $400 million and get kind of preferential treatment under these grant opportunities. I would also like to note that kind of the initial guidance that's been put out is that the grants and rebates are not only eligible to recipients, but there are also opportunities for contracts to different contractors as well. Next slide, please. So kind of the stage that the program is at this point is that EPA has issued a technical request for information or an RFI. This is available on regulations.gov, and EPA is kind of soliciting information for entities that may be familiar with different zero emission heavy duty vehicles and their technology. And so specifically in this RFI, EPA is requesting information related to the availability, performance, pricing, and practical considerations of zero emission technologies and program development. And so some of the entities the EPA is inviting and soliciting information from are entities such as manufacturers, fleets, ports, municipalities, school districts, utilities, and other stakeholders who have experience. I have looked under the regulations.gov. You can kind of see maybe in that screenshot that there's a tab there for posted comments. There are quite a few more posted comments now, as it's been about a month since that's been posted. Most of the information so far has been from battery manufacturers, different entities that sell this type of information. There were a couple from kind of the air quality side, mostly CARB and different jurisdictions in California that commented on this rule, but it was pretty heavily focused on kind of battery manufacturers and the vehicle manufacturers themselves. Unfortunately, this grant opportunity, the commenting period did close on June 5th for this one. So the Solid Waste Advisory Committee members won't be able to comment on this particular RFI, but this is just kind of the stage that it is at this point, and EPA will hopefully be using the information collected for the RFI to develop program guidance, which will give much more clarity on how entities can apply for these grants for the replacement and of these vehicles and the establishment of workforce development programs and installation of zero emission vehicle infrastructure. Next slide, please. And so if any MAG member agencies want to keep up to date with this information on this grant opportunity, EPA has stated that they do expect to begin the funding later this year. And so if entities want to keep up to date, I have included a link here in the presentation to the website where there is a email kind of sign up where you can click on and sign up for updates on the program. And so you should be able to get updates on when there's been new guidance issued or new timelines for the issuance of these grant opportunities. Next slide. Thank you. And I can take any questions.
Thanks so much, Elias. Anyone have any questions? All right, thank you so much. It's a big program, but it's great to know that there's some funding available. Okay, are there any requests by our membership for future agenda items? We're a quiet group today. Anyone? Okay. Now is the time for committee members to report on activities of interest occurring in their agencies.
Hi, this is JB Shaw with ADEQ. I just wanted to let everyone know that we had some great news come across our desk the other day. The ADEQ Recycling Grant Program is actually going to be returning shortly here. We're budgeted, I believe, $1 million a year for the next 3 years. And hopefully after that 3-year period, that amount will go up. But we are currently putting the program back together since it's been 14 years since that program existed. And so first step is putting the Recycling Advisory Committee together. And from there, we'll be rebuilding all the materials for the program. So just wanted to let everyone know to keep an eye out for both if you're interested in potentially joining the Recycling Advisory Committee. We'll be accepting resumes and letters of intent in the near future. That'll be put out to everyone. It'll be a press release, hopefully, too. So we've got a lot going on, but some good news on funding for our local communities and recycling programs. Thank you.
Thanks, JB. It's good news. Any other communities want to share about goings on in their programs? All right, well, I guess business is now concluded. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
This is Ramona Simpson from Town of Queen Creek. I will motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Ramona. Do I have a second?
Second, Felipe Moreno of Phoenix.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Our meeting is now adjourned.